You write about Arabia Shawamra, whose home has been demolished seven times actually, by the Israeli authorities. For decades, Israeli officials have violated the international law of occupation, prohibiting the destruction of property except for reasons of military necessity. Arabia, Salim, and their children, who live with long-lasting psychological damage from the repeated demolitions of their home, are paying the price. After the first demolition, Arabia was unable to speak for a month and remains fragile psychologically. Salim and Arabia's children still suffer, especially from nightmares and panic attacks. What kind of psychological impact does occupation have on the lives of those occupied? What kind of psychological impact did you see being manifested in those who are the victims of occupation?
Well, Chuck, I mean, in this specific case where you find that you apply, you own the land, you have worked hard overseas, you come back, you have bought a piece of land, you apply for permits for area which is in Area C, which is basically all construction permits are issued by the government of Israel. You are denied permit after permit. And when you finally go ahead and just make yourself a home so you can be there with your children, we heard in detail what's it like when in the middle of the night, IDF forces arrive and they start demolishing your home. Imagine as a child or even as a grown-up to wake up to this loud screaming, shouting, lights in your faces, your home, no chance to collect your possessions, and your homes are being destroyed is horrifying. It was the same sentiment that was expressed by the villagers of the Bedouin village, which had been destroyed just in January, and the mayhem that is caused, and somebody trying to just run away in their car with their TV, the few possessions they have, only to be shot dead in this mayhem and chaos. The fear that people experience, or in the case of Hebron, when every day, even as a child, a 6-7-year-old, you go through 23 permanent checkpoints in the old city of Hebron, where your life, when you look up, you have to have this wire mesh to capture the junk, the garbage that is being thrown by the settlers who live above you. This is your everyday existence. This is your everyday existence where because you're Palestinian, because you are, 7-8-year-old young boy who's Palestinian, the fact is your school bags are checked. Imagine what it feels like when you live life like that, when you're always being looked at with suspicion. Where as you enter Area A, which is the Palestinian area, there would be these big red signs which warn Israeli citizens to be careful because their life might be in danger because you're entering Palestinian area. This constant reminder of Palestinian as bomb-throwing, as stabbing individual. The image of always being a criminal, it gets to you after a while. In Hebron, that was just a very stark example of occupation where some of the most violent settlers have taken over the old city of Hebron, which, by the way, all these checkpoints came when an Israeli settler opened a gunfire in the Ibrahimi Mosque, killing, 29 Palestinians, and many of the Palestinians were killed in the chaos that ensued. And then they find their lives are taken over, their homes are taken over. You can't walk on your main commercial street, which has been boarded up. And just recently, 31 settlements were approved on Shuhada Street by Netanyahu. So when you look at that every day, the impact is very deep. It is, in the village of Nabi Saleh, I met children who are reporting from the occupied village of Nabi Saleh, 9, 10-year-old. And speaking to Bassem, one of the organizers in Nabi Saleh, I asked him that people say that by bringing children to the protest, you are denying their childhood, who have to face these grenades of IDF, you have to see these soldiers. And his daughter said, if there was no occupation, I would like to be a football player. But for now, I have to be a protester. And it's clear the childhood is being taken away by the occupation and not by the Palestinian parents.
We have been speaking with correspondent Anuradha Mittal. She reports to us on all things concerning land development around the world. She led the team in the new Oakland Institute report, Palestine for Land and Life. I just had one last question for you that is related to exactly what you were just talking about. How much do you think there is any degree of a lack of sympathy or empathy or support for those in the occupied territories because of any lack of understanding of what occupation is like on a daily basis. How much do you think that there's a lack of sympathy for Palestinians in the occupied territories simply because we don't know what's happening to the Palestinians in the occupied territories?
Well, Chuck, it is not just a lack of understanding. First of all, it is such a political debate, especially in the United States, where you right now have laws where in Texas, if you've been impacted by the hurricane, you cannot get aid if you are supporting BDS, boycott, divest, and sanctions movement against Israel. There's been such a strong lobby in the United States which tells us to ignore the plight of Palestinians. Supporting Palestinians or seeing the consequences of occupation and speaking out against it, we need to be very clear, does not mean that you are anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish. It only means that you are for human rights for all, you are for dignity for all, you are for freedom for all. And unfortunately, the way it has been presented in the Western world that speaking out for Palestinian rights means that you are against Jewish rights, this is totally wrong. And we need to fight that. We need to support. It's almost like saying when people supported, the BDS movement against apartheid in South Africa means that if you were supporting freedom for South Africa and ending of apartheid, it means being totally against the whites. That is wrong. This is really about looking, learning, and building an international community, which is a safe place for all. We also need to understand that till there's peace and justice for all in that region, there will be no international peace and justice. So we have to start looking at our foreign policies. We have to start looking as, and that's what we had to do as researchers working around land issues. There is no denying what is happening in the occupied territory. And it does require courage, as we have found, to speak out what you see, what you research. And you will be labeled as being anti-Jewish, but this is not about being anti-Jewish. This is only about being for human rights for all. This is about land rights for all. It's about liberty for all and livelihoods for all with dignity.